what do you think of when you think of Japan? Do you think of a country that's very pro-vegan, that's very plant-based? Well, let's take a look at the story because for 1,000 years, Japan officially banned the consumption of meat, and then it went backwards. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Thrapticon. Today we're going to talk about Japan, the country that flip-flopped. It was ahead of the world, and then it went backwards. So Japan was a traditional society based around plant-based foods. This is in large part due to the influence of Buddhism. Um, it's also due to physical constraints. It's an island, so there's not a lot of space to waste on animal agriculture. And traditional vegan vegetarian food you can find in a Buddhist context called shojin rori. And the shojin is a specific religious term referring to sort of the ceremonial pious food. And we think of the staples of Japanese cuisine, things like white rice, miso soup. Um, so let's look at the meat bans, right? In 675, Emperor Tenmu banned meat and fish consumption, and they stayed on paper for over 1,000 years. In fact, Tenmu banned both meat and fish, incredibly. And then one of his successors, Seimu, approved the fish eating. So, scaled it back a little bit. But this stayed on the books until the Meiji Restoration in 1872, when the government of Japan sanctioned meat eating. So it's kind of incredible point of view. You have to think at this time, did this mean that everyone abstained from eating meat? No. I mean, people would hunt wild game and they do this and that, or they would just ignore the law, things like that. But at least it's an interesting gesture. That entire imperial government was against this activity for moral reasons. I mean, Tenmu did this for his his religious convictions because he was a convicted Buddhist. So we're talking about this period, Meiji Restoration. Is this just corrupting Western influence? I mean, not that hard to put two and two together. I mean, yeah, we think today Japan's known for its famous cattle, these Wagyu cattle, sort of horrible thing, completely awful. But let's talk about, okay, so Meiji Restoration, and then from then on, they just opened the doors to all sorts of meat. Um, However, there is a little bit of pushback, right? In the 1930s, we have the famous George Osawa, who wrote over 300 books, most of them in Japanese, some of them in French. Um, and he was the inventor of the diet called macrobiotics, which was pretty much either a completely vegetarian or slightly pescatarian diet. A diet based around the balancing of yin and yang, so the idea of cold and warm, things like that. That's the main difference. Foods that warm, foods that cool. So the diet was based around whole grains because these were thought to contain yin and yang. They're cooling and heating. So the diet was based on whole grains, vegetables, seaweed, beans, mushrooms, things like that. So that's macrobiotics. So let's skip ahead to today, the current situation. I've never been to Japan, but people who've traveled to Japan say it's hard to get vegan food there, that there's fish sauce in many dishes, fish flakes. Um, Fish is a condiment, really, sort of like salt, they just put it in everything. However, that said, there are many vegan restaurants in the major cities, Tokyo, Kyoto, um, Osaka. All these major cities have a lot of vegan restaurants. Like here is a vegan sushi place. I think it's just called Vegan Sushi in Tokyo. And in fact, I found a very interesting website. So if you ever visit Japan, there's a place called Veg Project, and here's the founder, Haroko Kawano, and she made this site. Basically, it's like a Japanese version of Happy Cow. You can search for places. And they also do other things, project, and so they do a lot of. It seems like veganism in Japan means like corporate consulting and education, which is great. But it's good to know that they have these resources, because some people describe Japan as not very vegan friendly, though that's not the case. That's not the case. So anyway, I'll ask anyone who's watching: have you ever been to Japan? If so, recount your experience below, and I'd be happy to know how you found it. All right, with that, I will conclude for today. Thanks for watching.